What's up, guys? My name is Rafif. If you're new to the channel, I'm a competitive powerlifter, and I've been lifting for a lot of years. So I wanted to talk about the topic of like why powerlifters should train like bodybuilders and why bodybuilders should train like powerlifters. Basically, there's a purpose of strength, and then there's a purpose of building muscle, and we'll begin with each. I compete in powerlifting, but I really think that the two sports go together. Powerlifting and bodybuilding go together. Um, the reason that they do is okay. We'll start with powerlifter. That if you train in just the strength movements and you're training in powerlifting and you do squat, bench, deadlift, and you did just only that, you wouldn't put on a muscle on like a lot of your other body parts. And the accessory movements are important. There are a lot of different components to what builds strength. Like part of it is just having more muscle lets you have strength. Part of it is less range of motion lets you have more strength. So like if your chest is higher, the bar has to travel less distance. Part of it is more muscle. The person with more muscle will be able to lift more than someone with less muscle. So if you have two guys that are 150, but one guy is a lot more muscular at 150 than another, then the more muscular guy, all other things equal, will lift more weight. Other parts of strength are neurological. So like you get used to doing a lift and it gets more efficient over time. Um, so that's like another thing that like if you're practicing the movement a lot, you get more efficient at it. Other parts of strength are peaking. That like, oh, if someone peaks their strength and they're lifting lighter weights heavier, and then each week they're adding on weight on the bar, then over the course of a few months they'll get to a point where they're lifting really heavy, and because they had that progression, they'll be stronger in those last few weeks versus if they didn't peak out their strength like that. So there's a few different things, but one of the easiest and best ways to get stronger is to build more muscle. Um, so powerlifters need more muscle. Bodybuilding movements kind of provide that. Accessory movements provide that. That's one thing. And then another big reason for putting on muscle is, of course, so that you can prevent injury. If you have muscle, it kind of has like a what's the word, like a sort of preventative effect where like, oh, okay, you're not gonna get injured in certain places if your muscles are stronger and have more size and strength. And size particularly, I think that like if you have biceps and you train biceps, you're gonna be less susceptible to tearing or injuring your bicep versus if you never train biceps at all, like literally ever in your entire training career. um, so those are some reasons why powerlifters should train. In general, the more muscle that they can put on, the better lifter that they can be, as long as they can stay in their weight class. Everyone wants to look more muscular usually, and like the more muscle you have, all the other things equal, the more strength you'll have. So there's and it's really good for your health. They say that that you can't quote me on this. I'd heard this somewhere that like that a lot of risk and mortality comes not from obesity and like being overweight necessarily, like from the having more fat, like that is one thing, but more than the having fat is like the lack of muscle mass, like that um causes the health problems, it's more from lack of muscle, and than it is just from them being overweight or being obese or being really fat. Part of it is them not having the extra muscle mass. So that's kind of some stuff on why powerlifters should train like bodybuilders. Now, on for bodybuilders, why should they train like powerlifters and why should they care at all about strength? Um, I think they should because one, if you're a natural, you'll have to lift bigger weights over time to put on more size. You'll have to progressive overload in some way if you're going to put on more size increasingly over time. I believe that's kind of the case. If you did medium to lighter weights forever, you wouldn't put on more size, especially if you're a natural lifter. You can argue that someone who's enhanced, they can use steroids and other performance enhancing drugs to put on size, and like they can do it um, while they're relatively, what's the word, um, they can be lighter, lift lighter weights, but then not even train that hard and just be lifting lighter weights, take steroids and kind of get bigger, put on more size and strength. You can argue that's the case. They can do lighter weights, higher reps and stuff. But in general, progressive overload will put more size and strength on you. and will put on more muscle on you. And so if you want to be a good bodybuilder, you're gonna have to get stronger over time. You're gonna have to progressive overload in some way. That means putting on more weight on the bar, or increasing workload in some way over time. A good example too is like if you look at guys that do calisthenics and that are enhanced, no matter how enhanced they get, since they're only working with their body weight and they're not adding on more weight over time, they're not progressive overloading over time, they're never going to be that big, that huge. As someone, I've been learning calisthenics more, and I've been enjoying it and practicing it. The guys I train with, they'll tell me that like, yeah, you'll look ripped or great, but you're not gonna put on tons of size like a bodybuilder would, because you're not lifting heavier weights over time. You're not progressively overloading over time. Um, so that's one reason that bodybuilders should care about strength. Um, the thing too is that if you're training in like 4 sets of 12 or whatever, if you can do that with 200 pounds, and then like over time you can do that same 4 sets of 12 with 230 pounds or 240 pounds, and keep up that 4 sets of 12 whatever, then you'll have more muscle size than you would otherwise. So all things equal, that kind of matters. If you get stronger, you can gradually over time put on more muscle. It's not the primary thing, but it does matter. Another reason that bodybuilders should train like powerlifters, or should have some strength component in their training and try to get stronger over time, is that strength leads to muscles that look denser. You'll hear different pro bodybuilders talk about this, that the best looks are grainy looks, and like grainy looks in bodybuilding come from training a combination of size and strength. So it comes from like having some strength component in it. Usually when you train muscles, there are two types. There's like sarcoplastic, which is like the surface level muscles, and then there's the myofibrillar type muscles, which are more strength based. There's like fast hit, fast twitch, and slow twitch. But yeah, myofibrillar muscle is more strength based. When you're training more strength in powerlifting, you'll tend to train more of that. And then sarcoplastic is if you're in that 8 to 12 rep range, you're in medium weights like 60 to 70%. You're doing higher reps. That's putting on more of the bodybuilding surface looking muscle, and you need both. And if you have only sarcoplastic muscle without myofibrillar muscle, what you'll have is someone who trains light weights, high reps, but they can't do any heavy weight. And you'll have those guys that have like puffy bodybuilder looking muscles, but like they look like clouds, and like they don't have density to them. Versus if you look like at Jay Cutler, or at like Ronnie Coleman or someone, and granted they had taken drugs and stuff, but they have a grainy look. If you look at powerlifters that are like a hybrid of powerlifting and bodybuilding, they get like a hard look. Powerlifters, if they don't train sarcoplastic side, the hypertrophy side as much, they're not gonna be as big and look like a bodybuilder as much, but they'll have that density to them that a lot of bodybuilders, natural or not, if they don't train the strength side, they're not gonna have that dense look to them. They're not gonna be have like a thickness to them that they would if they're training strength. I think that's true, and that like if you train just a bodybuilding rep range and you train only lighter weights, you'll get that sarcoplastic look, but you're not going to get the myofibrillar muscles trained much. You're not going to get much strength, and just going to get a lot of puffy size. So, I mean, when you're training strength, you're getting stronger. You'll still get some hypertrophy of, you'll still get some sarcoplastic side. And then same, if you're training bodybuilding rep range, you'll still get some strength side, some myofibrillar side. I think bodybuilding and powerlifting really go together, and that both camps, like a bodybuilder or a powerlifter, can train similar and employ different parts of their training at like different times in the year. I think there's no reason a bodybuilder shouldn't try to get really strong, and there's no reason a powerlifter shouldn't try to look good and work all their muscles, and have all their muscles be really strong, but like develop them over time and get them larger over time. At the end of the day, the only thing that differs is the end goal. Like where like a bodybuilder, if they compete to be really lean and like look really good on stage, and like have all their muscles look big and lean and vascular and look good. And then a powerlifter competes to get their highest 1 rep max on the big 3 lifts on one particular day. So they have to be really strong. But at the end of the day, the powerlifter needs muscles and needs big muscles, and the more they can develop that, the better. They should train like a bodybuilder, and the bodybuilder, the stronger they can get, the more they can lift, and it can kind of prevent injury too. There's a lot of benefits to being strong. There's no real disadvantages, and they should combine their lighter weight training, so like sarcoplastic training with myofibrillar, heavier weight, more strength-based training too. Any of the pro bodybuilders, you'll see them lifting medium to heavy weights too. They'll lift heavier too a lot of the time, and they'll have that component in there. So yeah, whichever camp you're in, I think you can benefit from either side, and that maybe like a best of the both approaches is like the ideal approach. Something where you train kind of like a bodybuilder, kind of like a powerlifter. If you found this useful, please share it and feel free to like and subscribe. And I hope you guys got value from this. I found it very fulfilling to train kind of both ways, and I think there's only benefits to it. So keep an open mind and consider training both ways. So yeah, I'll talk to you guys next time.